Mhm. Hare Krishna, everyone. I would like to wish all of you a very happy Krishna conscious New Year. Welcome to 2025. May this year bring in a lot of knowledge, peace, prosperity, love in your lives, and may this be a splendid, wonderful year of a lot of learning and realizations. So, Ghanshyam, I'm very fortunate that Ghanshyam Prabhu has given me this opportunity to present the Bhagavad Gita class on Wednesday. So, today we will be talking from Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 3, verse 21. So, I'll give everyone some time, like a minute to open this page. Once they're done, if you could just show me a thumbs up on the camera or send a reaction or something like that, so I can know that everybody's on the same page. Also, I would request Sonal to please turn on your camera. I need to, everybody actually, Akanksha and Sonal, I need the cameras turned on. Samiksha's on work, so I think we can excuse her for that. Sonal and Akanksha. Yep, Sonal's on. Akanksha, if you could just turn on your camera. All right, everybody has got the Gita open. If you could just show me a thumbs up on the camera. Priya. Okay, Sonal, perfect. Okay. I think Akanksha might be facing connectivity issues or something. Uh, okay, no worries. We can begin the class. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मायं ददन्ति स्वपङ्कजम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं सदवैतं सददूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादा सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणनामि हरिप्रिये वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you all for joining this. It's best way to start your year. I mean, what better way than to start by doing Bhagavad Gita, uh, having a class on Bhagavad Gita, having conversations about the Bhagavad Gita. Just the fact that we are all attending this class and we are going to be talking about Bhagavad Gita for an hour is so purifying. It's so effective that going to bring a lot of auspiciousness into our lives. And what a better way to start the year. I ask a lot of people, what's your plans for New Year's Eve or New Year's? And most of them are saying, I'm going to go to a bar or go to a club and start drinking and all. And how you start your year is going to set the tone for your entire year. And if you're going to set it with some regularities, with some auspiciousness, that's going to pretty much map out your entire year. So very great, glad that all of you made the right decision to attend today's class, being 1st of Jan 2025. All right, so I think everybody has the verse open. Just a few things. This is going to be more of an interactive session because online I can't really judge who's awake, who's not. So I will get more of you guys to talk, and then we can just get through the verse line by line as we proceed. So can I get, let's see. Naira Mataji is driving right now, so I can't ask her to read. Keshava. I saw Akanksha last class. Keshava, Sonal, and I've seen Priya also was there last class. Keshava, Sonal, and Samiksha. Samiksha also seen before. Keshava, why don't you read the Sanskrit verse if you're comfortable? I'll get everybody to read the Sanskrit verse so you can read from Yad to Anu Vartate.
Okay. Yad Yad Acharati Sri
Shrishtas.
Shutas, Sri Shustas, um, Tat Tad Ivataro Jane Sayat Pramam um, Kuret Lokas Tad Anuvate.
Very good. Can I also?
Boom.
So the reason it's important to read the Sanskrit shlokas because the sound energy in Sanskrit language is so powerful. By reciting the verse again and again, it the in like it kind of sits into the heart the message of the verse. So very good, Keshava. I know Sanskrit is sometimes difficult to pronounce, but you did a splendid job. Can I also get Sonal if you can read the same Sanskrit verse Yad to Anuvrate?
Yeah. यद यद चरित्र श्रेष्ठास्त देवेतरो जन स यत्प्रामाण कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तन्ते.
Perfect. Priya, can you read the translation, the synonyms from Yatyat to Anuvrate following in the footsteps?
Hare Krishna. Yata yata means whatever. Acharati he does. Srestha a respectable leader. Tat that. Tat and that alone. Eva certainly. Itara common. Janaha person. Sa he yat whichever. Paramanam example. Kurute does perform. Loka all the world. Tat that. Anuvartate follows in the footsteps.
Perfect. Let's see who else we've got here. Akanksha, can you read the translation, please?
Yeah. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. I have to read further.
No, that's good. So that was just the translation. We'll get into the purport. So just do the uh, verse again. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tat tad eva taro jana sayat pranamam gurute lokas tad anuvartate. So whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the word pursues. So when we begin this, just to give you guys a little context, this is when Arjuna asked Krishna about the difference between renunciation and personal endeavors made by that. So basically, Arjuna was trying to get more realization on what is karma yoga. This chapter is the title is Karma Yoga, where Krishna explains karma yoga to Arjuna. And this the reason I chose this verse is because this is so impactful even in our regular lives. What great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standard he sets, the world pursues. So a leader always sets examples by his actions. uh, it's something that is the standard is set by the leader to for the general masses to then follow. Now, we can see like in any country or any establishment, if there's a leader and he is corrupt or his actions are not very pious, he's not able to practice what he's preaching. He's saying something else, but then he's doing something completely different. That is completely detrimental to the country because his actions are going to impact the entire country. People are just going to follow the leader. If the leadership is strong, the country will also then naturally follow. Easy example to understand this is for we can take a material example like a football team. Supposing Cristiano Ronaldo is like a very renowned football player, he's very famous, and a lot of people idolize him, look up to him. He's also a team captain, so he's we can say he's a good example for a leader. Now, if Ronaldo has to set a certain amount of standard, in an interview, Ronaldo said that he wakes up early at 4 a.m. He begins his workout. He's doing treadmill, then he's doing weights. Then after that, with a little bit of break, he has to go. He has to, practice football. He has to maintain a very strict, disciplined diet, no sugar at all natural. foods, all the nutrients have to be measured out. He has to eat the repetitive food every day. He cannot, one day if he feels like get an ice cream or something, that it's very, very disciplined life to maintain that standard. And because he is the leader and he's setting such high standards, naturally the other team members, they look up to the captain, they look up to the leader, because the leader sets the standard, and then they have to try to imitate that. Now imagine if Ronaldo was the captain, and instead of setting those high standards, he started doing, he was not disciplined at all. He would do whatever he felt like, eat whatever is that. He didn't have any firm discipline or determination. Naturally the team would never succeed. The reason why his team is very successful is because the leadership is strong. Same thing we can see in like countries as well. In countries that have very powerful strong leadership, the country flourishes. I have seen in so many times in India as well, when the prime minister was a very strong, firm leader who could take action, and they used to mean what they say. That time, the country would make very steady progress. But then there are a lot of prime ministers who were making commitments, but they could never keep up to it. Like a typical politician, they make big, big promises, but they are never able to, stand by it. And because of that, slowly the morale of the country also comes down. So this is in general what is trying to be said in this verse. Now, can I get Akanksha to read from people to ideal teacher? Or no, sorry, from common man. People to common man.
People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Acharya or the ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastra to teach to the common man.
Thank you. So, yad yad acharate shrestha's. Shrestha's means a great personality, a person who has a lot of knowledge and a lot of power. He has a very strong position. A good example could, like I said, a prime minister in a, when you talk about politics or in a national country wise, in a football team, it could be a captain. It could be, it's basically person who has a lot of a very strong high position, a lot of knowledge and a lot of power. And these guys also have a lot of influence. If they say or do something, it's going to have a very big impact. For example, in a school, if there's a student, like if the teachers made him the prefect or the monitor or whatever, he says something, it's going to have very limited impact. But if a principal does something, the impact is much more larger. The decision of a principal is going to impact the entire school. So that is what Shrestha means. It's a great personality. In ancient times, we could say king. In modern times, we can now say politicians and leaders. Now, Lord, if Prabhupada is given in his purport, if a leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes, which is basically talking about hypocrisy. A leader cannot be a hypocrite. He needs to practice what he preaches. That's like a very common term that we have heard. It's a very interesting story that's given. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was the incarnation of Lord Krishna in Kali Yuga, which is the present age, he came 500 years ago, and he was trying to preach devotional service to Lord Krishna for making God realization much more simplified for the people of this age, because the people of this age are very lost, confused, and their mind is always disturbed. For them to make it easy, he came and he himself followed the footsteps of Bhagavad Gita, which mentions devotional service, and he made it for very simplified for all of us by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi. If you don't know, sannyasi is one who's a renunciant. Basically, he gives up all wealth, all family, and he is supposed to travel from place to place. He's not even supposed to have a house. He travels from place to place and he preaches the message of the Lord and the message of ancient scriptures. So, what he had another sannyasi with him called Choto Haridasa. Now, Choto Haridasa, now sannyasis are not even supposed to marry, and they are supposed to strictly, their entire life is completely devoted to the Lord. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he once caught Choto Haridasa, which was another fellow sannyasi, staring at a woman with lusty desires. Like he could see him, he just stared, he didn't make any comment, he didn't take any action, he was just looking. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so angered by that, so irritated by that, that he immediately chastised Chodo Haridasa. He said that you're a sannyasi, and a sannyasi staring, uh, going against his own, and sannyasi's entire job is to preach God realization, and the entire point of being a sannyasi is being a renunciant. If a sannyasi who claims to be a sannyasi and then is doing these activities is a hypocrite, basically, he is as good as dead. You might as well commit suicide than disobey the rules and regulations of being a sannyasi. And he refused to allow Choto Haridasa um, into his sannyas um, group. So then after that, Choto Haridasa requested a lot of his devotee members, his god brothers, to talk to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and convince him to allow. They went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they said that he just said he is young, he doesn't know what he is doing, please forgive him and all. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so firm and strict. He said, absolutely not, I completely refuse. If you want him to be in the same temple as I am, I'll move out. You guys can then continue the movement without me. And all of them then just went back to Choto Haridas and they said, it doesn't seem like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to change his mind. So you have to leave the movement. You cannot be there anymore. And Choto Haridasa was so upset by this, and he felt so guilty that he went to Triveni, and he committed suicide. And a few days later, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired about Choto Haridasa, he said, "What happened to Choto Haridasa?" And they informed him that he's committed suicide. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Oh, that's good. That's good." So we see how strict Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, especially when it comes to sannyas. Similarly, it goes on to later say there was one more devotee who told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he was pregnant. His wife was pregnant, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually praised him. He said, "Oh, that's very good. Congratulations." And people now might think that, okay, he is chastising one person for just staring at a woman, and the other person has got a woman pregnant, but he is congratulating him. Why is this? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that because the person who was staring, Choto Haridasa, who he was a sannyasi, and sannyasi's role is a very powerful, impactful role. It's like we can say it's a shrestha. It's a respectable leader. And when he has sitting in that position, if you are a hypocrite or if you're going against your words, if the general population see that you are not able to stick to your own teachings, it impacts the entire population. Then the entire population starts disobeying the rules of the scriptures. So he said that for a sannyasi to be a hypocrite is as good as poison for the entire, is like equal to drinking poison. So that just goes on to show that especially when it comes to leaders, you cannot be hypocrite. You have to practice what you preach. It's even not even with leaders. If you consider parents, children, they only reciprocate with their parents from what they see. A parent can tell their child, do this, do that, but they're not going to listen to the words. They're going to listen to their parents' actions. If your father tells you wake up at 6 o'clock and then he's waking up at 9 o'clock, you aren't magically going to wake up at 6 o'clock. You're going to look at what is happening around you and you're going to imitate that. It was very interesting. I saw research done by Harvard where they literally showed, like, they got two sets of people, groups of children, I think from the age of like 5 was the maximum age, or 8, something like that. And one of them they were just put in different environments, and it was very shocking to see. Nothing needed to be told to the child. The child didn't need to be told, like, you do this, you do that. Like, one child was probably put in a group of scholars, intellectuals who were, living a disciplined life, going to bed on time, eating regularly on fixed timings, academically very successful. And then another child was put into a group that were, just laid back. They were doing whatever they felt like. And they were instructed, the group that was where the child was put into, they were clearly instructed, you're not supposed to give any instructions to the child. Don't, chastise the child or try to give him any lessons or anything. The child just simply was just around them, and just being in that environment, a few months down the line, it was so severely impacting both groups, because the group that was in a positive environment, just by looking and seeing how the environment was, by imitating what the seniors were doing, what the leaders were doing, they naturally their habits also started becoming more regulated. Whereas the other group, the children, they copied them, and they actually got much worse. They were not doing anything in a fixed pattern. They were always very troubled, and they were causing disturbance. So that just goes on to show you how much impact it has when a leader, somebody, your environment does to you, and especially a leader, somebody who you look up to and imitate. Now can I get, let me see who is there. Sonal, can you read from uh, the teacher to human society, please? The teacher cannot manufacture two books to be followed by human society.
The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principle of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhitaha and similar others are considered the standard books to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader teaching should be based on the principle of such standard shastras.
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's all good. We'll continue from there later. So, yes, the teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. Now, what this is going on to say is, to make it simplified for you, if you are in school and you have a maths teacher, the maths teacher can't all of a sudden come to you and say, you know what, I feel very confident in maths. I'm going to make up my own theory. I don't care what's written in the book. This is how maths is done. I'm going to do maths my way. And they come up with their own concocted, misinterpretations of maths. That's not how it works. If he's a maths teacher, he has to go by the book in any subject. Whatever's written in the book, they're supposed to be intellectuals, they're supposed to be well versed in that, and then they're supposed to present it as it is. They're not supposed to make their own interpretation. So this is one who teaches in that way is called an acharya, an ideal teacher. Now, acharyas was a title given to people who used to teach the general population. So, Prabhupada is our founding acharya of ISKCON. And what acharya's main duty is, A, they're supposed to behave properly. They should basically imitate whatever they're trying to preach. They should first be doing that themselves. So we can see this in Prabhupada. Prabhupada used to preach, used to chant, everyone should chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna. They are supposed to follow the four regulative principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. And he set even more standards for people who were like for brahmacharis. It was waking up at a certain time, food restrictions, very regulative life. And now, before he could be getting the title of acharya, before he can become a teacher, to be an ideal teacher, he needed to first behave properly. He basically needed to practice everything that he was preaching. Prabhupada himself used to chant like 64 rounds. For us, because he went and preached to Western societies, and in modern times it was difficult for people to chant for that long. He reduced the standard for us, but he himself used to go much beyond his. He had set the bar very high, so we can imitate. And then he is very qualified to then proceed with these giving out instructions to the common man, because he is well versed in the scriptures. If he can't go with the Bhagavad Gita and say, here's what's written, but I will give my own interpretation of what it is. It doesn't work. That's why it's called Bhagavad Gita as it is. He gave the knowledge exactly how it is. He didn't make any interpretations. He went by the rules and regulations of the scriptures. So it's also mentioned that about the Manu Samhita. So the Manu Samhita is basically ancient scripture that outlines the role of the king and the societal leaders, Raj Dharma, about righteousness, about social structure. Varna Ashrama Dharma, which is basically society was earlier classified, it still is, and it goes according to these four dharmas, four categories of people: the intellectual class or the brahmanas, the administrative class or the kshatriyas, the merchandise class or the business oriented class, which is the Vaishyas, and the working class, which is the Shudras. Unfortunately, in today's time, we have completely misinterpreted what the Varna Ashram Dharma means. We think that it's by birth, but it's actually more to do with the qualities of a person and the sort of work that you're doing. So people who are the brahmanas, for example, people who are more inclined to educating others, when knowledge is their main domain, for them they are qualified brahmanas who are following the scriptures, who are preaching the knowledge of the scriptures. They come under brahmana. People who have an inclination to teach. Administration in today's time, in those times, kshatriyas used to be kings, the administrative class, kings, ministers. In today's times, it is, your politicians, prime ministers, stuff like that. Administrative class, even the military general, people who are engaged in politics and administration. Then there's the merchandise class, the Vaishyas. In those times, it was people, merchants. Nowadays, we can see businessmen, people who have, startups, all of that, they come under that. And then Shudras are simply workers, menial jobs where you were there. It's said that they were supposed to serve the higher classes, which basically means that the intellect, they are like the Brahmanas are said to be the intelligence, the Kshatriyas are supposed to be the hands, the Shudras are said to be the legs. So each work in coordination with each other. They can't exist without each other. Every class is as important. So that was the Varna, and basically it went on to say, the Manu Samhita goes on to say that the ethical education among people to follow a certain dharma, to follow some amount of righteousness, and you can set your life according to the righteousness. You can't just live life as you feel like. There has to be some morals, some standards that everyone has to follow. Everybody, we don't live life completely how we feel like. There has to be some sort of morals. Like for example, in a country cannot exist without a law book. There needs to be some rules and regulations, otherwise people will just go on the streets doing anything. Each country has some rules and regulations. And the Manu Samhita, it wasn't like a religious scripture, it was more to do with the welfare of the population in general. And it specifically focused on the ethical education amongst leaders, so that the society in general could be more prosperous and more positive. So that was the Manu Samhita. And so the acharyas, or great men, were supposed to abide by the rules and regulations given in the scripture. They were supposed to basically imitate the instructions given in the scriptures, follow those ethical guidelines, and then proceed. And the public, the general population, used to look at that, and they used to get inspired, and they used to follow that. What a great man performs, common men follow. A good example of this is Lord Ram, actually. Lord Ram was one personality. He is a Shrestha Purush, which is a great man. He had a huge impact and a lot of following, and he was a great king. He was a great leader. When Lord Ram was given exile, so one day before he was going to become the king, his uh, his father was going to hand over his kingdom to Lord Ram, his most capable son, whose Lord Ram was nothing but the supreme personality of Godhead in a human incarnation. And one night before he was going to be crowned the king, his wife Kaike came to him, and she told King Dashrath, who was Lord Ram's father, that when we were once attacked, and I had saved your life, you had given me a boon, and you said that whenever I want, I can use that boon and ask for whatever I want. So he said, yes, I completely remember. So she said, yes, tonight is the night I want to use that boon. And she, out of fear, because she had a son called Bharata, and she wanted him to become the king. And she told Dashrath that I don't want Ram to become the king. You send Ram 14 years in forest exile, Vanvas, and make my son Bharata the king. And the king was completely torn apart. He was like completely shattered, because he really loved Lord Ram, and 14 years of separation from Lord Ram would completely destroy him. And he begged Kaike, he continuously requested her, please, you ask me for anything, I'll give you my entire land, I'll give up my own life, but you don't ask me to exile Lord Ram. I cannot. He was completely in distraught. And he was very shocked. He said, what will the population think about us? What will the people think? One day before he was crowned king, we have announced to the entire kingdom, we can't suddenly now change it. Please ask for anything else. I can't have Lord Ram away in exile for 14 years. But Kaikeyi was adamant. She wanted her son Bharata to become the king. And the next day, when Lord Ram was called to the quarters of King Dashrath, he was completely in distraught. He was so much in agony, he was in so much sadness and so much pain that he wasn't even able to talk to Ram. He was just sitting and he was in complete, sadness, melancholy. And when Lord Ram inquired, he came to know that Kaikeyi had asked for this boon. She had requested Lord Ram to go on 14 years of forest exile, and she requested her son, Bharata, which was Lord Ram's brother, to become the king instead. And when it's given in the description, there was not even like an inch of, like, angst or hatred or anything. He just followed the instructions. You're supposed to follow the orders of the leaders, which is given in the scriptures, and Lord Ram did exactly that without any remorse, without any, why did this happen to me, and this is so unfair. And we hear about modern kings and modern politicians. If there's any, when they want property, they conspire to murder their parents. But here's Lord Ram, who followed everything by the book, and he did it without any personal grudges or anything. That he was ordered to go to the forest. Immediately he went to the forest. He renounced everything, all his land, all his property, everything. He gave up his entire kingdom, all his wealth, and he lived in the forest as a sage, as a renunciant, as sadhu, with no money. He lived on fruits and shrubs, and you had matted hair. From wearing silky, you know, royal clothes, he went and he, wore leaves, and he lived as a ascetic. And that just shows how Lord Ram abided by this. He is exactly a Shrestha, a great personality who follows the scriptures and doesn't make his own interpretations. He was in the scriptures, it's said, and I think it's very common knowledge as well. You're supposed to show respect towards the king. A king's order is final. The king ordered him that you're supposed to go to forest exile. He didn't argue, he didn't show anything. In fact, he was not even, holding any grudges against Kaikeyi. He was completely respectful towards her, and he just followed the orders. It was not, he didn't have any, if like, it didn't affect him in any way. So that is what great men should aspire to be, following the scriptures and setting a good example. Now, Lord Ram, we should note, was the supreme personality of Godhead. He can do anything he feels like. He's all powerful. He can do whatever he could. He could have easily got back the kingdom and, destroyed Kaikeyi immediately. But Lord Ram thought of the generations ahead, of the people. He thought of a larger scale. He said, this example that I'm going, this sacrifice that I'm doing will set an example for the entire kingdom, that I followed the scriptures. I didn't, I followed my dharma. I was ordered by the king to do this. I did that, and that sets an example. Now, when the general folk of the country, they see Lord Ram, a personality that they completely admire, doing something like that, naturally they will also follow it in times to come in challenging circumstances. And even till this day, Ramayana was happening like thousands and thousands of years ago, but even till this day, Lord Ram stands as a symbol of, discipline and abiding by the rules. He never broke any law of the scripture. So that is what's trying to be shown in this purport, that how great men are supposed to not give their own interpretations, not try to they must be willing to follow the scriptures first. They should be well behaved. They should be following their own the scriptures before they can teach a common man. Now can I get, let's see, I got Sona. Okay, let's do Keshava. Keshava Jay, can you read? Did we stop Samhita? Yep. You can do the Srimad Bhagavatam to, let's do till, yeah, spiritual codes. You can just read till the end. Srimad Bhagavatam to the spiritual codes.
Um, The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of a state, the father, and the school teacher were all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes.
Thank you, Keshav. Yes, the Srimad Bhagavatam is another ancient scripture. So two ancient scriptures are mentioned here, the Manu Samhita and then the Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, all of them affirm the fact that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the path to spiritual realization. If I'm to give a example from the Srimad Bhagavatam, how many of you know the story of Dhruva Maharaj? I think Ghanshyam Prabhu also mentioned the story of Dhruva Maharaj, at least in rough idea. You could just raise your hands if you know about Dhruva Maharaj. Okay, no, 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 no. Okay, so basically, Dhruva Maharaj, he was the son of his of the there was a king, and he had two wives, and the second wife, his her son was Dhruva Maharaj. And one day the king was playing with his son very fondly. He was making him sit in his lap and playing with him. And young Dhruva, who was a boy of 5 years old, he wanted to play with his father because that's natural how kids feel. But the king's first wife was there, whose child was sitting on his lap, and in order to not upset, she was very like jealous of the. She didn't want Dhruva Maharaj to sit over there. She only wanted the king to show affection to her son. And when Dhruva Maharaj wanted to sit on his father's lap, she stopped him, and she told him that you are not that fortunate actually. You are not that fortunate that you've not got a pious birth from my womb. You should pray to Lord Vishnu. You do austerities and request him that in the next lifetimes you're so fortunate that you can be born from my womb. Right now, you're not worthy of sitting on your father's lap. Imagine, she told that to like a 5-year-old boy. Can you imagine what would be going on in the mind of the 5-year-old kid when your stepmother is telling you that you're not worthy enough to sit on your father's lap? And Dhruva Maharaj was a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas are people like Kshatriyas, their characteristics are defined by people who cannot take insults very easily. So he was completely enraged by that. He was sobbing, all teared up, and he was very furious. And he took it to his heart and he said, you know what, you think that I'm not worthy to become sit on the king's lap. I want something even higher than the king. I want a position that's higher than my grandfather, which was Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is the creator of the universe. So this 5-year-old boy, he wanted a position that is even higher than Lord Brahma. And usually we say these things in just the heat of the moment and then we forget about it. But the Kshatriya will never leave that. If he said something, he's going to do it. He's not going to, very determined. So this 5-year-old boy, he went to his mother, and his mother was really upset knowing that, and she said that no, you should worship Lord Vishnu and ask him for benedictions, because only Lord Vishnu can give you that sort of position, sort of benediction, where you can get such an exalted position. So this kid was complete the 5-year-old boy Dhruva Maharaj was very determined to perform austerities for Lord Vishnu. And he was traveling in this forest and he was ready to do tapasya, austerities. And Narada Muni, which is a very great devotee of the Lord, who's a personal Narada Muni is a very great renowned sage and a very great devotee of the Lord, perfect devotee almost. And he instructs Dhruva Maharaj that first he tells him that, you're just a 5-year-old kid. These are just family issues. You should let this go. Don't take this so seriously. But Dhruva Maharaj, when he spoke, he was so determined. He said, I'm sorry, now I will not change. I want a position that's higher than Lord Brahma, and I will perform austerities throughout my life to get that benediction. And when Narada Muni saw that this 5-year-old boy had so much determination, he gave him instructions. He said, okay, you chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. He gave him a mantra. He then gave him some regulations to follow, and then he said, if you focus and meditate on Lord Vishnu's form in your mind, eventually Lord Vishnu will appear before you and provide you those benedictions. So the boy started doing very severe austerities. He would stay months without food and water, and he also could control his breath, where he was like breathing once a month, once a week. He was very deep in his austerities, and his mind was completely engaged in meditating on the form of Lord Vishnu. And then one day, when he was very deep in his meditation, all of a sudden he couldn't see Lord Vishnu anymore. And then that just shocked him. And when he woke up, he opened his eyes and he saw Lord Vishnu was in front of him. And Lord Vishnu then gave him the benediction. By then, he was so self-realized after meditating on Lord Vishnu, that he realized that the material desires he at one point wanted, he no longer desires that. He didn't want a big kingdom. He didn't want that high position. He simply wanted devotional service to Lord Vishnu. But now Lord Vishnu told him that I'm so pleased with your austerities, that you are definitely going to be coming back to the spiritual world after death. You will not be reborn. And not only that, I will also give you material boons, since you were requesting that. So you will have a lot of opulence in this material world, in the earth, and you'll be ruling this earth for a very long time. So Dhruva Maharaj then proceeded to rule over the world for 36,000 years. But even though he had all that he desired, he had got a very exalted position. Lord Vishnu also gave him an entire planet that was just named after him in the spiritual world. And he said that even after the destruction of the universe, this planet is still going to stay. That's called Dhruva Loka, a pole star. And that was how exalted Dhruva Maharaj's position was. So basically, if we see the Srimad Bhagavatam through the story also says that Dhruva Maharaj, who followed the footsteps of great devotees like say Narada, who was a very great saint, even he made such great progress in his path of spiritual realization. A 5-year-old boy, and now he through austerities and following the footsteps, he has such an exalted position. Now, the second thing that's given is the king, the executive head of state, the father, and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of innocent people in general. So, this is a very interesting thing. Innocent people in general means basically these categories that are mentioned over here, king or executive head of state, father, school teacher, are all natural leaders. Basically means that the teachings that are going to come from them are going to have a lot of impact on the society in general. And they are in for the general mass, these three are considered natural leaders. So a king or the head of executive of state, for example, the prime minister of Australia, if he tomorrow comes out with a certain law, certain rule, or he wants to make certain changes, it's very impactful. It's going to impact how the country operates, how the economy works, how the foreign relationships are, how the people in the population are affected. His decisions impact the entire population. Similarly, father. Now, like I'd given an example before, a child will copy what the father does, not what he says. A father is again a very good role model. If you have like they say, good parentage can completely make and break a personality. A good parentage, parents that have given very good, we say, samskaras or ethics and morality to their children, it's going to completely change that person's life. So father's also technically a leader, because a child has to listen to the orders of a father. Child cannot act independently. He's going according to the father, and the father's instruction is going to have a very significant impact on the child. If the father is instilling good habits in the child, in a later period of life, the child will see that has completely shaped his life. Similarly, a school teacher. How many of you have had an experience where you had a teacher who, gave you lessons? Maybe it was subject related, maybe sometimes even beyond subject related, that completely had a very impactful, great impact in your life. Anybody had a school teacher who had a very good impact in their life? Like for me personally, I had an accounts teacher who, after accounts, used to just sit with all of us. I was like what 15, 16 years old that time. And he used to give us such genuine advice, like beyond just subject. Most of the teachers, they used to see their clock, they used to say, okay, I have to teach from this to this. They used to read from the book and just go. But this teacher, he was like very personally involved with the students. So he used to, like, interact with us, find out how we are doing, what difficulties we're facing. Since we were teenage, he used to prepare us for our adult life as well. He used to give a lot of genuine advice. And he the advice that he used to give me after class, he used to take me on long walks, and we used to just talk for hours. And he used to give me very genuine advice when I after school, when I get into work life, how things are going to be, what to expect, how to prepare for those challenges. And because of his advice, till this date, I see so much impact, I see so much benefit from that. So yes, these three categories, they have a lot of impact in the general population. That's why they consider natural leaders. Naturally, they becoming leaders because they have such an exalted position, and such an impactful position in general population life. So anybody has any experiences that they would like to share? Maybe it could be a lesson that your father gave you or a school teacher. Yes, Priya, go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking about teachers. So I also used to have a teacher in my, I think it was around eighth or seventh standard when I was on that standard. Yes, he was my English teacher, and we used to live in like neighbors. So yeah, she was very. She used to take extra cares of our handwriting. She used to give us extra classes, and she used to read books. And from her also, I learned to read books on different topics. And like it was a fiction, non-fiction. She teaches me how to do that. From her, I came here to learn more books and give my time to books as well, rather than to other social media or anything. So it came from that time to here. So it was a great help.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's such a beautiful incident that you shared. And book reading is such a good habit that we can cultivate. I've seen in, like, when I go to the train station, when I'm sitting in public transport, most of the people have their phones open and they're just unnecessarily scrolling, watching like somebody with blue hair dancing. Some nonsense is going on these days on the internet. And if you spend that same time on social media, like Priya, you said so beautifully, instead of spending that time on social media, if you can read books, books can have such a huge impact in your life. Books like Bhagavad Gita in general, I would say, so many books in my life when I've read, it's completely changed the way how I perceive life, how I've made decisions from there on. And especially Bhagavad Gita, if you start if you make it a habit of reading Bhagavad Gita more and more, it can really have a tremendous effect. So yes, again, like you said, a teacher had such a great impact, and this is now you're saying it now. I believe like 10 years from now, you'll see how book reading has completely shaped your life. It's changed, it got so much positivity into your life. So that's a great realization. What about Akanksha? Do you have any, maybe something your father said or your teacher who gave you a very good lesson, had a very impactful position in your life?
One of my aunt has a very impactful, like, has a very great impact on my life, and that's for the financial independence. Whether you earn it's like 10,000 rupees or maybe it's like lakhs and or millions of dollars, but like financial independence is the most thing. So that if you are educated and if you are financially independent, you have the power to make yourself a bit easier, and the one living near you. So yeah, the way she struggled was very impacting on me. How did she, like, she was not earning at one point of time, and then how she fought and all those things. And through education, like as Priya said, book reading, and she used to, like, she is now a teacher now. And through the book, and she used to read every newspapers of general knowledge and competition books which we get back in India. She used to make point that she has bought all this from half a rate price, and she used to read everything. And just because of that competition and lot of knowledge she gained from those reading books and newspapers, she could attend conferences of different levels, and then she impacted the knowledge of whatever she gained. And now she is a very renowned teacher back in India.
Wow.
And now
That's
I do have an habit of uh, like reading, but not into financial thing. But like I read everything. Like I don't distinguish. Oh, this is my interest or that is not my interest.
Correct.
Whatever. I go to your salvos and I pick like most of the books only. Yeah.
No, that's such a beautiful realization, Akanksha. Yes, like financial
Yeah.
education is so important and so uh, unspoken of underrated, because we, especially like Indian background, it's more of academics and just
Yes.
reading unnecessary. But when you come to like Australia, being financially educated, having financial independence is so very important, because it can take care of so many inconveniences in your life. If you're financially educated, it'll be a smooth sailing. Otherwise, I've seen like so many people, even though they have big degrees and everything, they're still struggling with like, rent and bills and all that, because, again, lack of financial education. So again, yes, what a beautiful realization. And, from their struggles, the knowledge that they pass on to us, it makes our life easier, because they struggled in their life. They have got a lot of realizations, a lot of experiences, a lot of understanding, and then they pass it down to us, and we are so positively impacted from that. So again, thank you so much for that realization. Very beautiful. Keshava, do you have anything, again, any realizations that you'd like to share? I think you're on mute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, Look, I don't have a particular story to relate, but I have had many instances in my life of teachers who taught with um, you know conceptual clarity and just can convey the imagination of quite abstract topics such as science and yeah, that's it's really important because that that um, the conceptual clarity and the imagination, you can become inspired by that, and then you can take it on as a behavior or an attitude, and
Mhm.
you know, so yeah, uh,
Yeah,
it can be quite wonderful to receive that from a teacher.
very beautiful. Again, these small, these incidents have such great impact on our lives, that we get so much knowledge, so much positive impact from this. What about Sonal? Do you have any realizations you'd like to share about a teacher, father, any incidents that has really positively impacted you or impacted you in general?
There has been quite a few, but one of them, like of a particular teacher that I remember from my high school. So I was not doing so much great in math, I think around seventh or eighth standard. I don't particularly remember. So I just failed one of my unit test, and that was contributing to my academic year, entire year. So I just told my teacher that I could not, one of my math teacher, that I couldn't get through more of the concepts of the, like what she was teaching. So she made sure that if I was ready enough to get some help from her after the classes, she was ready to give me extra classes. So I just attended that, and by the, I think I was pretty much able to recover my like academic fallout during that time.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Yes, the advice that teachers give us sometimes, in academics also, we may not realize it right now, but in a few years' time, we realize how much that's completely saved us from a lot of difficulties that we could have potentially faced. And because of their advice, because of their help, we have benefited. So, like this, all your realizations, thank you for sharing. Did I leave anyone out, by the way? I think that's all. Yep. So just from these beautiful realizations that you've shared, we can see how impactful a school teacher is, and I'm sure father also. There's so many things that our father must have taught us that have, impacted us. So if we see in a general mass population, these three are, considered natural leaders, because in every country you can go, any state you can go, these three are primarily the natural leaders, impactful people in every, in general, innocent people in general, innocent people, like for example a child, he's innocent, he's not biased or anything that, and for him the leader is the father. So it's very important actually that these three categories in for the welfare of society at large are following scriptures like Manu Samhita, which is basically talking about morality and ethics. If a person doesn't have morality and ethics, if your father doesn't have morality and ethics, if he's, I've seen unfortunately a lot of people who have like alcoholic fathers, and they're hitting them and abusing them and all of that, very irregulative life. Sometimes they go to jail and all. That's impacting the children also as well, because now the children are just looking at that, and for them the father is the leader. If the leader is doing that, they just think, okay, that's how it is, that's how life is, and then they start imitating that, and it's completely impacting so many people. What, everybody has so much potential, so much possibility in them, but if the leadership is poor, then they can't move anywhere. It's like going downhill. Again, if your the government is corrupt, the government is bad, naturally there's always disturbance in the country, there's always tension. School teachers also, if you have a bad school teacher, there are some school teachers who try to misportray some ideas, they try to give their own mental ideas, or let's say the school teacher is very well versed in the subject that they're teaching, but they're not ethical, moral people, they don't have any morality. Then even though they might be very good in the subject that they're teaching, but through their behavior and through their actions is going to impact us, because see, we don't remember the words that people say, we remember the actions that we say. We remember, okay, this person used to do these type of things, and because of that, look at like I gave again Ronaldo's example. We see that how he's setting such high standards, and then people naturally imitate that, and it causes general welfare of the entire environment, because the people also benefiting from following those instructions, and the leadership is then strong. Uh, so again, I think for this verse, Lord Ram is the best example I can give. Another incident, the Ramayana, is where there's Vibhishan who was. I'm Ramayana is, I can't narrate the entire Ramayana, so just to keep it very brief, Vibhishan was the brother of Ravana, who had kidnapped Lord Ram's wife, and Lord Ram was now waging war against Ravana. Vibhishan was a pious, religious, moral person, even though his brother was a demon. He was a Rakshasa, a demon. So Vibhishan uh, was always in favor of Lord Ram, because he knew that Lord Ram was following the scriptures, was abiding by religious and moral values, and he wasn't doing anything moral wrong. Whereas Ravana, he kidnapped somebody's wife and he did all sorts of atrocious things. So Vibhishan used to constantly advise Ravan, and Ravan used to be very angry with him, furious at him, that how are you supporting my enemy like that? You are my brother, you're supposed to be supporting me. But Vibhishan had such high moral character that he said, even though you're my brother, I cannot sit here and tolerate all this. I can't sit here and applaud you for kidnapping somebody's wife and mistreating and killing people and raping people. That's completely wrong. And then Ravana, once he gave advice, and Ravana got so furious at him that he humiliated him in front of all the ministers, his brother, his own brother. And then Vibhishan just said, I'm not going to then fight from your side, I'm going to leave Lanka. And then where Ravana's kingdom was, he went to Lord Ram. And when Lord Ram, he approached Lord Ram, he fell at his feet and he requested him that I'm completely devoted to you. I want to fight for you, because you are fighting with morality. You're fighting with some sort of religiosity, and he really was devout to Lord Ram, because he understood the impact that Lord Ram had, the positive impact that he had, and the example that he was setting for everyone around him. He wanted to fight for Lord Ram. Now, in general, if a king is has to make a decision, he can just say it and everybody has to listen, whether the public likes it or not. If he says that I okay, I don't want you in on my side, nobody can argue with that. He couldn't cry, complain, or anything. There, if he wanted him and somebody opposed to that, he has to just keep quiet and sit, because again, the king's order is final. So when he approached Lord Ram, Lord Ram could have easily just told him his decision, that okay, I accept you, or okay, I reject you, and other people would have had to just accept it. But Lord Ram, he went out of his way and he took opinions of each and every of his personal, followers, his the ministers. He had Sugriva, he had Hanuman, and he took advice from each. He said, "What do you think? What do you think?" And that again shows how Lord Ram was such a great example of this, because Lord Ram would value each and every opinion from the ministers. He used to get all the opinions. He was going to make his decision anyway, but he took the opinions, he took the feedback from everyone before he could make a decision. And that's how it's given in the scriptures also, how a king should make a decision. He should follow, abide by the rules of the ministers around him, by knowledgeable people. So he took advice from from Hanuman, from Sugriva, and Hanuman said that I've been to Lanka, and I've seen Vibhishan. He's a very pious person, even though he was unfortunate to be in Ravana's brother, but he has very high moral standards, and I think you should accept him. And Lord Ram accepted. Lord Ram was anyways going to accept him, but he, went out and he took the advice from all of his ministers, because that's how kings is supposed to operate. Even in like Greece, they have a council of ministers that are like Brahmanas, is basically intellectual people who have high level of intelligence and scriptural understanding, and then they give advice to the king, so that king can take correct decisions, the administrator can take correct decisions. So like that, it's given for the king. A king should always operate in accordance to the knowledge or the advice given by Brahmanas. So Lord Ram again very beautifully displayed that. Each and every, so many instances in the Ramayana where he keeps on consulting Vibhishan, he keeps on consulting his group of ministers around him. So again, we need to see that all natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. A leader cannot tomorrow say that okay, I don't care, I'm like a prime minister cannot say, or the president cannot say that I'm the president of this country, I'm such a high position, what are they going to do, I don't care what they say. That is irresponsibility. You cannot work like that. It's going to impact a large population, and if the leadership is correct, it's going corrupt, it's going to impact so many generations, so many people, a huge mass of people. That's why it's important that the leaders have natural responsibility for the dependents. The dependents means like for a father, it could be a son, for the school teacher, students, for the state head, executive head of state, it could be the people of the country. So these people, they should have a great responsibility, and they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. That is very, very important. How many of you have heard of Mahatma Gandhi? Have Can you raise your hand? You, Priya, Akanksha Sonal. Yeah, Mahatma Gandhi is a very renowned personality. Obviously, we have all heard of him. Mahatma Gandhi himself used to read the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, fun thing, if you turn the flip side of Bhagavad Gita, there's actually a quote given by Mahatma Gandhi about how the Bhagavad Gita has so positively impacted him. Mahatma Gandhi always carried a Bhagavad Gita with him. He used to constantly refer to the Bhagavad Gita whenever there was challenging, stressful times, which goes on to show what a great leader. Mahatma Gandhi was such a powerful leader. He could, without even raising his hand, he could fight off an entire British Empire, and followed all the traits that I mentioned over here. He abided by the moral and spiritual codes. He used to constantly, read the Bhagavad Gita, abide by the regulations given in the Bhagavad Gita, and we can see the impact in today also. Like in Indian currency, we have his photo. We can see how much impact he has had. So that's a good example of a great leader and the qualities that he needs to have. And why is it important that a great leader needs to have qualities? Because again, uh, a Shrestha Purusha, a person of great power, impact, knowledge, he has a huge impact on the general population of the mass. So if a leadership is strong and firm, the general population also will be strong. A leader can make very firm decisions. You can take this even in corporate life. If the CEO is very strong and sharp, he makes the correct decision. He he has very high morality. like a lot of CEOs I see in companies, they're very strict. They're just like making people work like machines. They don't care about the personal, personal, how it's personally affecting the co-workers. But the CEO who goes to each and every employee, tries to understand their mindset, their understanding, and then through that he treats them as human beings, as individuals. And then with his intelligence and with his, because a person who has moral standards will do all of that, then those companies also naturally flourish. Like if a warehouse, if a guy runs a factory and he's just telling people, you do these many things, if you don't do it, you're fired. It's just harsh like that. It's not going to work. There's no morality, there's no humanity in that. But a person who has some sort of morality, he'll go to each and everyone, he'll understand, okay, you guys might get tired at these times, you can take this break, you can do this. He tries to work out things, and he treats people as individuals, because that's what moral people do. And he abides by, like, again, if you read Bhagavad Gita and you abide by that, blindly follow that, naturally you're going to be a very moral person, a high moral person. And then if you are ever in a leadership position, you should always consult scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, and that will completely positively impact not only your leadership, but the people around you, the people under you. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. One fun fact before I end is, I love the sentence where it's mentioned, leader cannot teach public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. And I saw, like, in our uni we had like like, those seminars about anger management. So we had one, I don't know which country he was from. I think, I don't know which country he was from. But anyways, he was like full on. He was going on and on about anger management. That we should do this to control anger. We should do that, and we should, he was trying. He got an entire fancy looking presentation, everything like that. And at the end of the speech, like, everybody clapped for him, and he was very happy, that he was very proud of how he gave that presentation. And people thought, okay, wow, this guy's given such a powerful presentation. Maybe he is very self-controlled. He knows what he's talking about. And then the uni, they had agreed, there was some disagreement on how much he was going to get paid for the seminar. So at the end, like, there was a disagreement, and the uni just clearly told him, like, the management told them, that we cannot pay you what you're requesting. This is what we are going to pay you, take it or leave it. And funny thing is, he got angry. Then he started screaming, shouting. He actually, he had like some notebook or something, he threw it on the floor, and he said, this is nonsense, how dare you. His face became red, and he started screaming and shouting. And I just remember I was walking past that, and I could see that incident, and I said, yeah, maybe you should have taught some of that anger management tips to yourself before you go out in that. So that just gives an example. Like, imagine now somebody who's sat in that course, why would he have any inclination to follow what this guy was saying, when he sees that this guy himself is not able to practice what he's preaching? So it's very important for a leader to, you know um, uh, first abide by the rules. That's why before you become a leader, make sure that your behavior is very intact. You are able to first follow your own, the rules and regulations as given in the scriptures yourself, before you can go out and you talk to people. And Prabhupada is such a great example for this. He did this, day and night. He used to slot he used to sleep limited hours. He used to print books through the day. He used to give multiple lectures. He used to travel from country to country, do that. And he was 70 years old. Like, a lot of people at like 20 years old would get tired. If I told any of you to do this for like a week or two, it's very taxing work, because you need to sleep for less hours, work throughout, this speech over here, that speech over here, organization, financial problems, so many things. But at the age of 70, he so beautifully handled that. Why? Because he followed the regulations of the scriptures. A lot of people were asking me, like, I'm Bhagavad Gita, how do I know if it's true? How do I know if it's not, like, somebody just, how can you validate what's given in the Bhagavad Gita? How do you know if it's true? What if it's false? What if somebody just wrote that and he's trying to brainwash you, whatever, blah blah blah. And I just told him a simple thing. I said, why don't you try to follow it? Why don't, if it's given that like, you follow the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, and then you see if there's an impact in your life, then no questions asked. It's that I've never met a single person till date who has read the Bhagavad Gita and said, "Oh, I regret reading the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, I have not learned anything from the Bhagavad Gita." Every time I see somebody who reads the Bhagavad Gita, it's complete like 360 turnover. I had one friend who was going through like some job issues. He was unemployed and he was unable to pay rent and all of that. And he was completely stressed out. He was almost thinking of canceling his visa, and he was like saying that I'm going through depression, all of that stuff. And I recommended him the Gita. I said, you read the Gita, because if you are able to answer the questions inside, then only you can handle the problems outside. So first you make sure that inner strength is there before you can deal with the problems outside. If your inner knowledge is very powerful, all this will be very smooth. And he read the Bhagavad Gita, and like within months I could see so much drastic change. He was much more calculative, much more, he was more intelligent in handling problems. Earlier he used to just get stressed out, and he used to drink a lot. So anytime there used to be even any minor inconvenience, his first reaction was, let me drink. But now, through reading the Gita, through understanding the knowledge, he was able to deal with situations much more smartly. And today he's like in a very exalted, like a top management position in a very good business, in a very good company. So you can see, I've seen so many examples. This is just one story. I can tell you like hundreds of such stories. You guys can yourself practically start it. 2025, a lot of people take New Year's resolution. I'll do this, I'll do that. And most of them like get over in like a week's time. Like, it's a joke that we have that when you go to the gym on 1st January, it's always full. By 12th January, it's like half the people are gone. They just, everybody's resolution ends in like 12 days. But you guys can take up a resolution of reading the Gita more, because the knowledge in the Gita is very transcendental. The knowledge in the Gita has the ability to penetrate your heart. It can show you your true potential that maybe even you didn't realize you had. And the Bhagavad Gita gives you a lot of clarity. I always give people this example, like when you're giving a test, and if you have never studied for this test, you're always going to be in anxiety when you're giving the test, because you're going to be like, oh, what is this question? Oh, I should have studied. It's going to be regret and anxiety. That's why so many people anxious today, because they're going about life without preparing for life. Bhagavad Gita is like an instruction manual. Now, if I give you a test and you've been preparing, you're like very amazing, top notch in that subject, you will go confident. It'll be like butter. It'll be so smooth that you won't even feel any speed bumps. It will go smoothly. That's what the Bhagavad Gita gives. It's like an instruction manual for life, and we can use this in our practical life and apply it. If we ever have questions, okay, what if this is not true? What if this is like some gimmick or something? There, okay, you practice this, and then you practically see, you see it in outside people. You see, okay, yes, my, like all of you just shared, my teacher gave me this lesson and now today it's impacted me positively. That's just validating what's given in the scriptures. So that's why we say it's very, very, very important to read the scriptures. That's how the countries also used to operate. Every country goes by a constitution and needs to go through rules and regulations. Manu Samhita is not a constitution for a particular religion or country. It's for humanity at large. It's eternal knowledge. It's always going to stay true. If 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 500 years from now, it's always going to stay true. Depending on what country and all, it's always going to stay true, because it's the guidelines, the framework for morality that and ethics that leaders need to have. So just to conclude with some final points. So we started with Yad Yad Acharati Shreshtas. That means what a great man does. That a great man, a Shreshta, a person who has high stature, high leadership, his actions are followed by Tad Tad Evataro Jana, which is common people. Common people follow their example. People are influenced more by actions than words. Then Sayat Pranamam Kurute, which means leaders determine the norms of behaviors, that their standards can uplift or degrade society. So their actions are basically impacting entire society. Loka tad vartate, the world follows. The standards that leaders set, that's what the population follows. This is going to do benefit to the leader. It's going to do benefit to the population in large if the leader is practicing what he preaches and he follows the instructions. So that's the keynote that I want everyone to take from today. Given the time, I'll have to end the class. Does anyone have any questions? Shoail, Sonal, no questions. Priya, no questions. Akanksha, Keshava. Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for attending today's class. I would like to before I end the class, just request all of you, 2025 today. There's no better day than today to start, getting Bhagavad Gita into our lives more regularly. Because the more we bring in Bhagavad Gita into our lives, we won't. It's like again, I gave this example last class also. When you sow a seed and you put water over it, immediate results you won't see the tree suddenly grow up, but over a long time that small sapling has grown into such a big tree. That's the power of Bhagavad Gita. It sits into your heart, and then over time, without even you coming to realize, you're like, wow, so many things I'm able to handle so much clearly. The Bhagavad Gita is that powerful, the knowledge is that powerful, because it's given by Bhagwan himself, God himself. The knowledge is very divine in this, it's very transcendental. You can practice all of this, and you can contemplate on the Bhagavad Gita, meditate on the lessons that are given on the Bhagavad Gita. So if you all want to start with a New Year's resolution, don't keep something which, like, something vague. I will eat healthy, or I'll, okay, you should do all of that, but keep a more specific. I will read these many pages of Bhagavad Gita every day, based on whatever your convenience is. But try to get more Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is something that's going to do nothing but benefit to you. It's only going to bring auspiciousness, positivity, and at the end of the day, peace into your lives. So with that, I wish all of you a very prosperous, peaceful, happy, joyful, and very successful year. May 2025 bring a lot of joy into all of your life. And since you guys have made this splendid decision of attending Bhagavad Gita class on the 1st of January, you guys can take a New Year's resolution to read Bhagavad Gita even more and chant Hare Krishna, because that's again what the acharyas are giving. That's again going according to the scriptures. So thank you so much for joining. You guys can say Hare Krishna and log off. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.